Summerslam. Traditionally, it is one of the biggest shows of the year, the summer pay-per-view, and its 2008 edition might be one of the best. From the Hell in a Cell match between the Undertaker and Edge, to the WrestleMania-worthy Blockbuster between John Cena and Batista, and also the memorable segment between Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho, everything was there for us to enjoy and to go through all kind of emotions. Together, we are going to go back to this 2008 edition of the biggest WWE show of the summer and try to define all the elements that make it unforgettable. You are on the Wrestling Paradise. Why SummerSlam 2008 was a masterpiece? Let's go! Folks, I'm going to be completely honest with you and tell you how I feel about this show. SummerSlam 2008 is most likely my favorite in history. If it's not my absolute favorite, at least it's clearly in my top 3. There's no doubt about it, because it simply ticks all the boxes. And of course, we are going to address all these elements. An awesome card, tremendous star power, good matches with stories and entertainment, a very strong identity. My friends, what else can we expect from a show? To me, this SummerSlam 2008 is absolutely incredible. And I'm going to tell you why. You will see that there are really a lot of reasons, so make sure to stay until the end of the video. You won't regret it. First, in my humble opinion, it's impossible for a show to be incredible if it doesn't have an identity. And now, you might ask, Johnny, what do you mean by identity? And this is my answer. Identity is a soul, something that makes this show completely unique, unlike any other. For example, identity is the opposite of putting the same stage on each show and making zero effort to create a unique stage. But that's another story. In this case, what do I mean by soul and identity? A unique stage, as I said, graphics, a theme song, the ring apron, the ropes. In fact, the whole visual part of the show. Everything that we see and hear while watching it. And from that standpoint, SummerSlam 2008 is 5 stars. Check this out, folks. It has a poster with the beautiful Maria on a wave scooter and the phrase, the biggest blockbuster of the summer. That can make us think. Blockbuster of the summer reminds us of movies. It reminds us of Hollywood. It's a spectacle. It's entertainment. Stars. In short, it's some of the best things we can like in pro wrestling. And this cinema identity, this blockbuster of the summer idea, is very well represented on the amazing stage of the show. Let me tell you something. I absolutely love this stage. I think it's beautiful. What do you think about it? I love this idea of recreating what looks like the entrance of a movie theater, with its white billboard with black letters and small lights around, where the match that is taking place is indicated during the whole show. I think it's just beautiful and super classy. There is a real consistency with the tagline and this very cinema identity. Who can sit at my table and tell me, that's a lazy stage, it has no identity? Nobody! On the other hand, when I see such a great and ambitious stage like this, the current stages pale in comparison. I'm sorry, but that's my opinion. At the time, they clearly put their heart into it, and I say, hats off to WWE. And another element that I love about this show is the rock theme song that goes so well to SummerSlam and all the charm of 2008. Ready to Roll by Jet Black Stare. If you're not familiar with this song, I highly recommend it to you because you can really feel an energy, an innocence. And I'm not afraid to tell you folks, to me, wrestling must have rock music. Of course, it can be more or less pop rock, more or less hard rock, but the two universes go so well together. And finally, in terms of identity, I'm also a big fan of the ring. There are beautiful blue ropes with the black apron and the SummerSlam logo. And that makes me say, identity, yes! The blue and green colors that we find in different ways, that's consistency. We can feel a real quality work to create a singular show. And I also think that blue and green are colors that fit the summer well. So they are perfect for SummerSlam. And seeing that, I was eating it up with a spoon, as a big fan of production. You will probably have understood by now that I love the work on the identity of the show. And tell me in the comments if you agree, or if you think that I am maybe a little too enthusiastic. But I sincerely challenge you to make the comparison from a visual standpoint with SummerSlam 2023, for example, and to evaluate the degree of work in the production of each of these two shows. And I would be very curious about your feedback. The fact of the matter is that after a great intro, like all the promos of that time, we can move on to what is the tremendous strength of this show, in my opinion. Its card and its excellent matches. The best is yet to come, folks. Check this out. In the opening match, we had an awesome Jeff Hardy against MVP. Typically an ideal matchup to start a show, just like a good appetizer in a meal. Of course, having Jeff Hardy means high-flying moves, the Swanton Bomb, the Whisper in the Wind, all his spectacular in-ring skill set. And I want to emphasize that he was one of the very few to do it at that time. It really was his style that stuck to his artist character, his extreme and crazy side. There was a real meaning behind it that also fitted his daredevil persona outside of the ring. He was one of the few to do it, and it was not meaningless, but it fitted his character. His spots and his acrobatic moves had value to me. It told something about him. They were not non-stop gymnastics that tell no story. And he simply had charisma, personality, which is more important than everything else in pro wrestling, according to me. I would also like to say that the storyline between MVP and Jeff was deep and very interesting. He told Jeff that he was taking too many risks in his life, and that it was costing him. And for the record, at that time, Jeff's house had burned down and his dog had died. He told him that he missed all the opportunities that were given to him and that he would never be champion because of his reckless way of living. Can you only imagine the depth of this match? And what was also great storytelling was when Shelton Benjamin came to distract Jeff, who jumped on him from the top rope. But eventually, that would make him lose. And there is a message behind it. Once again, his recklessness cost him. It was such great symbolism. All of that is even more interesting when we know that in 2008, Jeff was suspended because he had gone back to his demons. He was still chasing his first WWE title after losing to Randy Orton at the beginning of the year. 2008 was really Jeff Hardy's epic quest to achieve his biggest dream, through all the obstacles, and it was so great. Were you also a fan of the charismatic Enigma in 2008? Then we had some lighter stuff, but equally entertaining, with an original match. Listen to this, guys. The Glamarella team, which is Santino Marella and Beth Phoenix, against Kofi Kingston and Mickie James, with the Intercontinental title and the Women's title at stake. And it was a winner's take all, so the winning duo would have both titles. Typically an example of the creativity of WWE in 2008. And Santino is so funny. Which wrestler is funnier than him, honestly? Personally, when he does his finger gesture or when he is on Beth Phoenix's shoulders, I really think he is hilarious. What a great actor. And he even was lucky enough to win in the end. Of course, it's a low-card match, but thanks to Santino and thanks to this unusual stipulation, it was still entertaining. And don't you think that the show always needs a lighter part like that? That was even more necessary with the heavy stuff that was coming right after that. Don't go anywhere, folks. We had a segment in the middle of SummerSlam, and not an average one. The big announcement that Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid, was going to make about his future. It should be noted that not long before he had an eye injury caused by Chris Jericho in a personal and violent rivalry, and after several weeks of anticipation, he was going to make that decisive announcement for the rest of his career. At that moment, he came to the ring in a classy outfit with his wife. It was an emotional scene, and we understood that he was saying goodbye. But then, surprise, Chris Jericho arrived. And I must say that this is probably my personal favorite version of Jericho. The one from 2008, where he was this heel in a suit who called everyone hypocrites and gelatinous tapeworms. What a character, and he was perfect in this role. He ordered Shawn Michaels to tell his wife and children that Chris Jericho was the one who retired him, which would lead to a heated argument between the two men. The storyline was amazing, and one of the best of 2008, and it was a shocking moment when Jericho wanted to hit HBK, who avoided him, and in the end, Michaels' wife was the one who got hit, and quite hard. Were you shocked at that moment too? I think it was an incredible scene. It was very intriguing since the line between what was planned or not was blurred, since we could have thought that Jericho hit too hard. The fact of the matter is that it was a memorable segment, just like this legendary rivalry between a HBK who claimed Jericho would never be Shawn Michaels, and a Y2J who accused him of being a hypocrite, but that people forgave everything because he's Shawn Michaels. Can you imagine how personal it was? That's a good storyline, and it was an incredible segment. To digest all these emotions, there was a match that I didn't enjoy very much, to be honest with you. Mark Henry against Matt Hardy for the ECW title, which ended with a DQ because of Henry's manager Tony Atlas. On the other hand, I was happy because Jeff Hardy came to protect his brother at the end, and they managed to have the last word together. Moreover, we will note that Jeff had some dreadlocks on that day. He must have been in an exotic mood. Having a Hardy Boys reunion in this scene, when you know that Matt will eventually turn heel and ruin his brother's life, was clearly a crazy moment to see. Then we had the heavyweight title match between CM Punk, the champ, and the awesome heel JBL, who is too underrated in my opinion, because he really knew how to make people hate him. What I like about this match is that it symbolizes the period in the summer of 2008 when CM Punk was the champion on Raw. It was a breath of fresh air and a real change compared to Triple H, John Cena. Well, obviously that experience didn't last very long because at Unforgiven, the next pay-per-view, Randy Orton gave him a vicious Punk kick that would make the Chicago Kid lose his title. Anyway, this match between Punk and Layfield told a real story, with the heel manhandling the babyface with powerful elbow drops, which I'm a big fan of personally. It was a match where Punk had the opportunity to prove his resilience, his heroic side, and he would end up winning clean, which was great to give him credibility. What did you think of this reign of CM Punk in 2008? Do you think it was nothing more than a transitional reign or a breath of fresh air? I would also like to say that I enjoyed the way CM Punk was often filmed during his entrance at that time. It created an awesome visual in which we could see the whole audience. As for the WWE title match in this show between Triple H and the Great Khali, it is typically a matchup where some might say, it's not good wrestling, it's useless. But let me tell you why this match was exciting. On one hand, you had the cerebral assassin, Triple H, a legend, and he was champion since April at that time. On the other hand, there was a giant, the Great Khali. How could the King of Kings succeed in defeating this monster, knowing that the previous weeks he had failed to put him in the pedigree, and that the Indian had given him a powerful vice grip? That was all the idea of this match, a real chess game, and I think it was interesting. Triple H had to be a fine strategist to win. Do you also get excited about these kind of David versus Goliath matches? Or at least these scenarios where everything is based on strategy? Obviously, some people like it, some don't. And the game was true to his nickname by being clever and weakening the giant's legs to finally win with the pedigree, thanks to that. This was typically the kind of match that must have given nightmares to Dave Meltzer, but personally, I enjoyed it. After that, it was time for the blockbuster of the summer. The clash of the titans between the two poster boys of the ruthless aggression era. Those who had both been chosen in 2005 to follow the steps of Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, and who had never faced each other one-on-one before. Two intense and believable men in a WrestleMania-worthy match. What more can you ask for at SummerSlam, folks? I think the pre-match promo was super classy. The entrances were monumental, and the atmosphere was electric. It is important to realize the prestige of this matchup at that time, and also the huge suspense that there was. Who is going to win? Who is going to be Vince McMahon's chosen one? At least in August 2008. Was it going to be the one who had become Super Cena, who won almost all the time by being a superhero? Or was it going to be the Animal? I love this kind of matches, with two real stars and total suspense. This is what wrestling is all about, even combat sports. And I would go even further by saying that it is also what movies can be about too, speaking of blockbusters. Beyond the good guy against the bad guy, having a clash between the irresistible force and the immovable object. Who is going to win and how? Anyway, this match had an incredible aura. Look at this chemistry and this intensity. Don't you think it's amazing? The match was really great to watch, with a huge tension on each pinfall attempt. There was a figure 4 by Batista and Cena, which was a cool tribute to his mentor Ric Flair. And in the end, I was in shock when Batista won. And it was a clean win. Can you imagine how strong of a choice it was? Were you also in shock? Between us, we were really lucky as wrestling fans to have such a blockbuster at SummerSlam. And as if that wasn't enough, there was a tremendous main event coming up right after that. Could this already exciting card be even crazier? What could make it even better? There you go, a Hell in a Cell match between Edge and The Undertaker to conclude one of the most important storylines of 2008 that had been going on since February. It was going to be the culmination of this rivalry, and it was awesome to write its final chapter in a Hell in a Cell match, which promised to be violent and intense, and it was! In this match, we had tables, ladders, chairs. They even went through the cage and broke the announcer's desk. But above all, it had meaning, value. It served a story that needed a wide conclusion. We had to feel the hatred between the two characters, and the definitive winner of the rivalry had to destroy his opponent. Tell me what you think about this match, but to me, it was the perfect ending for this feud, and it was so well written. The Undertaker had his revenge for everything Edge did to him for months by using his own weapons against him. For instance, by doing a spear, by giving him a concerto, by hitting him with the camera. That's what I call intelligent writing, which connects to the past. And let me tell you this. To me, it is, with the Michaels vs. Flair at WrestleMania 24, the best match of 2008. Do you agree with me? Come and discuss it if you don't. But there was storytelling, star power, violence, but not useless violence. And above all, there was an epic ending which even today leaves me speechless. While during their entire rivalry, the matches ended either with a triangle choke from the Deadman, or a countout, or a victory for Edge, the Phenom was going to defeat the Rated R superstar with a tombstone, which was already a new ending. But above all, when I personally thought the show was over, Taker returned to the cage, brought Edge to the top of the ladder, told him, "Now you're going to hell!" While there were very fast images of crowds and cemeteries among others. And then, boom! He threw Edge to the ground. It created a hole in the ring in which he disappeared. And then, in an extraordinary image, flames started coming out of the hole. Are you also impressed by this incredible symbolism? We can say that the dead man sent Edge to hell for his sins. What better ending for this story? This match also represented in a way the end of the Familia, the group composed of Edge, Vicky and Chavo Guerrero, Ryder, Hawkins and Neely, which was a big part of SmackDown in 2008. What an absolute classic. In the end, SummerSlam 2008 didn't have any disappointing matches in my opinion. There was suspense, entertainment, great stories, huge stars, a good job on the identity of the show. Quite frankly, I see no flaws in this pay-per-view. It had everything we can expect from SummerSlam. which is still one of the biggest shows of the year and also in the summer. And we could feel these both elements in this show. Just like the whole 2008 year in WWE to me, it was a masterpiece. Now you know why I think SummerSlam 2008 was a 5-star show, which really deserves to be used as a template for any SummerSlam in my opinion. Tell me if, unlike me, you are not a fan of this show, or if you enjoyed it too. Which other SummerSlam you would put on the same level? Of course, all of this is just my point of view, and the whole idea of this video is to discuss it together while respecting everyone's opinion. We all have the same passion. We are brothers and sisters of wrestling, and it would be a pleasure to discuss all of this together. We can say that this topic raises a lot of questions. I hope you had a good time watching this video, and I invite you to stay in the paradise of wrestling to look at some other ones. See you right away.
And that's the bottom line, 'cause Stone Cold said so. What?